And we are back. It's your man Odell. I'm still here with my friend Itoro, man. And it's funny, we brought up Nashville because, that's a city that helped shape you and who you are. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because I think about Nashville. I had the pleasure of being there not too long ago, going down there with my brother Fort Knox for the Boom Bap event. Shout out to Case, Ray Wonder, Red Bull, who helped sponsor the 10-year anniversary. And it was just funny, though, because one thing I appreciated and liked about the vibe, similar to when you talk about collaborating and stuff, right? I just remember just being there and just seeing the tight network, right? So, like, Case and them, they invited me in, and then looking at even the photographers, shout out to, like, Nick and Deshaun, everybody's working together for, like, a bigger goal. And, like, it wasn't really nobody on no stunt and no shine. Everybody's working together. They wanted to see it win, right? Mm-hmm. And it kind of reminded me of Seattle, the same kind of vibe I got when I went to Seattle, is that they were so concerned with, putting their city on the map. It was just about working together, not about trying to have these little silos and things like that. But, Nashville's at a point now where you look at the draft just happened, and that was amazing. Talk about the city of Nashville and everything that's going on and how to help shape you.
I think, I tell people all the time, I arrived in Nashville as a boy and I left as a man.
Okay.
I think the city, when I left in 2011, it was on the cusp of explosion. Like the people,
right.
Like the infrastructure was laid out through the late 90s and in the 2000s, where, you had the hockey team. Yeah, you bring the Houston Oilers to Nashville, rename them the Tennessee Titans. Then you say, okay, then you had this tornado that blew through the city in 98, and then, all of East Nashville was destroyed for the most part.
Okay.
And then when East Nashville began to rebuild and people could not afford to rebuild,
yeah, we know how that goes sometimes.
We know the rest of the story.
We've seen that movie before.
Oh yeah. So then but then what ended up happening as a byproduct of that, it introduced a lot of people with entrepreneurial spirits to the city that had not necessarily been there.
Okay.
So that spirit of collaboration sprung up. And the vibe of the city was just like, okay, you know what? We're country music town, or we're just country. Like, come on now. Like, what is Nashville known for? Like, we're surrounded by two black cities, Memphis and Atlanta.
Yeah.
Birmingham's also a black city too.
Yeah, Birmingham's.
So it's like we would complain like, oh my God, like we don't have nobody wants to stop here. Everyone goes to Memphis, or we got to go to Atlanta if we want some quality black entertainment.
Right.
Like, who comes here?
So you started working and build your own.
And then exactly. People got fed up. People got tired of complaining. It's like, you know what? We can build our own stuff.
Wow,
I almost cussed, but let me keep it PG.
It's all good.
You know what I'm saying? And I think people understood, people who do the boom bap. Shout out to my people, Delisha, and Tiffany, 2 L's on the Cloud. They do a whole lot of black music up there.
Okay.
They promote black music up there.
Nice.
They just said, you know what, we finna do our own thing.
Yeah.
We're not gonna be Atlanta.
Right.
We're not gonna be Memphis. We're gonna be Nashville.
Which is great. I mean, and that's what I love about it too, because I really, just hanging out there with Fort Knox, and we were at the event and just soaking up the energy and just meeting all the different people that I was meeting. And, like I said, it was the same kind of vibe I got when I was out in Seattle, because they had that same kind of mentality, right? Because in Seattle, they weren't L.A., right? But they weren't this area. Like, they're right there in the Pacific Northwest. They're like, we got to take care of each other. And we got to put ourselves on, so we can't sit around and wait and wonder about it. We had to put ourselves on. That's what they did. And I felt like my trip to Nashville had that same kind of vibe.
Absolutely, because every time, like you said, I was there for the NFL draft, and people were
crazy, man.
And let me tell you, like they shut down 5 city blocks.
Yeah. When they showed that overhead shot
with the camera,
I
literally,
couldn't
they
believe
strung
it.
that camera from the arena where the Predators play. and the stage was
Yeah.
literally
Yeah.
at the river.
Yeah. That.
So that
Yeah.
5 whole city
Yeah.
blocks, and Broadway is 7
Right.
lanes of traffic.
7 lanes.
3 going, 3 coming in the center lane.
Yeah, I mean, for anybody who watched the NFL draft, we're not sitting here trying to just promote it. It is what it is. But that overhead shot, when they come, like you said, I saw it right at the beginning, and they came with that camera, and they came all the way down, and I was like, wait a minute, this is a Thursday night. You would have thought, it literally was like a festival. I was like, this is crazy. So I was so not surprised because looking at what that city has done, and like I said, the infrastructure had to be said because it's just off the Richter.
Absolutely. And I mean, I talked to people around the NFL who have never, ever, ever, ever been to Nashville, Tennessee.
Right.
They came away, they was like, you know what? I think we could host a Super Bowl here.
Oh, yeah.
Because guess what? You turn down any block, there's bars everywhere.
Yeah, yeah.
You've got shopping.
Yeah.
It's downtown is walkable.
Walkable, yeah.
And guess what? You have a pedestrian bridge that goes over the river. You can take as many selfies as you want. You can do photo shoots with the downtown skyline behind you.
Right.
Or you can have the stadium in front of you.
Exactly.
It's very photogenic.
Listen, the city of Nashville, they showed up and showed out. And, I mean, any tourism of Nashville, send us our check. We did our part. But
visit Nashville. I'm watching you guys.
We watching you. But it's funny, too, going back to the Boom Bap event, right? And this is funny how things work, right? At the end of the night, it was crazy, premiere, all that kind of stuff. But they started handing out these pizzas, right? And these small pizza boxes. And I remember eating the pizza, and the pizza was really good. But looking at the box, like, man, where have I seen this logo from? Where have I seen this thing? Is like Slim and Huskies. I was like, where have I seen it? I was like, somebody mentioned this to me before. And then I thought about it. I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Itoro talking about these brothers like years ago. I was like, once again, it's funny how things work. So talk about that. You talking about the entrepreneurial spirit. And then they go to Tennessee State, or one of them
we went to Tennessee State together.
Okay.
Shout out to those boys, Clint, EJ, D. We all went to.
And they're building one here in Atlanta too.
They're building 2 in Atlanta.
Oh yeah, wow, they're not playing.
Building 2. One of them is opening very, very soon.
Oh yeah,
in West Side Provisions District.
Okay, yeah.
The second one is going to
connect
open.
with the brothers.
Yeah, and their second one is opening near the AUC. Between where Ralph David Abernathy, North Side, and Metropolitan all meet.
Gotcha.
And they've taken this rundown building and they're just renovating.
Yeah,
it.
I was impressed because, like I said, I mean, I literally, it was a long night, and then it's just all these pizzas. Like, you want a pizza? Case was like, you want a pizza? And I was like, sure, I want a pizza. It's like, and I was like, eating out, like, this is good. And I was like, where have I seen this?
Yeah.
And I was like, yo, he told about these brothers like years ago, man. That's crazy. This thing putting in that work and whatnot. And now for them to be opening up in Atlanta, I guess y'all doing Tennessee State proud, man.
It's literally like you see a need, you go fill it. That's literally. And if you can't fill it yourself, find some people who can help you fulfill and meet the needs of the people.
Right.
The old slogan at Tennessee State was think, work, serve. You come in here, you think, you work, and you go serve the community. That was the plan. Now we flipped it. I think our generation kind of flipped it and was like think, work, serve, and lead.
Lead. Okay.
Because now you see what we all are doing. It's like, we are all leaders in our different spheres of influence.
Right. That's very true.
Yeah.
I want to build on something too. Speaking of events and things like that, we talked about, Nashville hosting the NFL draft and whatnot, but how do you approach going to big events, right? Because you're not someone who just covers sports, but you covered big political events, rallies, all kind of different things. Like, how do you approach going to those big events? Because sometimes, like you said, you're walking in still with your head up and your chest out, but it's more of an independent media. You have all of these bigger names sometimes trying to take up space, and you deserve your space as well. Like, how do you approach when you go to these big events?
The biggest thing I do when I go to these events is get there as early as possible.
Okay.
That's first and foremost. Pull up as early as you can. because if you're not familiar with the environment, you don't want to embarrass yourself.
God, that's true, right?
Don't want
Especially
to.
if you're independent media. You definitely.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Don't embarrass yourself. Get there early. I know Atlanta, some folks in Atlanta.
When come cool,
they
arrive.
Come cool, they arrive when they get ready. No. Because when you starting out, people got to know how much you want it because they're giving you a privileged access.
Right.
So therefore, is it are you going to
treat
it as such?
Yeah, you're going to maximize this opportunity.
Or are you just going to be in here for the glow up and the selfies and all that stuff?
We've seen both sides of it. I'm so true. We've seen the people, like you said, to get access to an event. And you're like, are you covering this event? Or are you covering yourself taking a selfie at the event? Like, what are you doing?
Absolutely. And it's just like, I get so frustrated when I remember one time, I'm not going to say where it was or whatever, but I saw a person, in a locker room, trying to sneak a selfie of himself in the locker room.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I said, and I literally like pulled him to the side. I'm like, hey, bro, listen, let me tell you something. No pictures in the locker room. Yeah. He was like, oh, yeah, my bad. You know what I'm saying? I hear King. And it's like, come on, man. Like,
that's some etiquette.
You in the game. You in the game, bro. Let your work speak for itself. Don't cap and be like, yeah, I'm in the locker room and this player's over here and that player over there.
Act like you've
been there before.
Act like you.
Yeah.
And it's funny too. Speaking of that, because like when you talk with whether it be a athlete, whether it be a artist or a politician, can you give me someone who you expected something and you got something totally different? Like you were going in expecting to talk. Because I mean, I've seen you talk to whether it be Kyler Murray, whether it be Nick Saban, whether it be Baker Mayfield. You talk to all these different types of people, whether it be Stacey Abrams from political side. Who have you went to and you're like, okay, I wasn't expecting that.
I think I'll take it from both sides.
Okay.
From the sports angle, there's two people that come to mind. Anytime I talk to Vince Carter, he gives very thoughtful, well thought out answers.
Okay.
Nuanced answers. You ask him about the Duke North Carolina rivalry.
Yeah.
He will give you 10 solid minutes as to why it's Duke versus Carolina is the most important game in all of basketball, high school, college, pro, or international.
Okay.
The second person was Nick Saban. But when I asked him a question about, after, national championship game, it was at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in 2018. I asked him a question about, what artists does he listen to?
Oh yeah, that was
his downtime.
It's funny. I was trying to remember if that was you or not. Yeah.
I asked him that question, and he said Michael Jackson, the Rolling Stones, Elvis, and Elton John, I believe.
Something like yeah.
And he literally said the music from my era, like 60s and 70s,
right.
60s, 70s, early 80s. His 31-year-old son is playing the music on his guitar from his era. So he's like, listen, when I grew up, we had everything. We had Motown, we had this, we had that, we had this, we had that, And everybody else is building upon what we did in the 60s, 70s, and early 80s, which is actually true.
Right.
So the fact that, I got hardcore coach Nick Saban to open up about,
his whole facial expression changed on that too.
His whole thing was like, he lit up because he's like, yo, like I'm sick and tired of talking about football so much. Finally, you give me something I'm passionate about.
I remember that was a good clip. Yeah, he started talking about Motown and stuff. I was like, Nick Saban. I never thought I would hear Nick Saban, like you said, mention Motown or soul music. I never thought I would see that. But what about on the political side?
On the political side, Stacey Abrams, we did an interview. I filmed the interview for the Atlanta Voice.
Okay.
Shortly after she won the Democratic nomination, May of 2018.
Okay.
And our reporter at the time, Janae, she asked a question like, "What do you listen to?" And Stacey said, "I listen to Lemonade by Beyonce every morning. I wake up and I play Lemonade.
Okay,
It gets me started for the day.
Yeah.
It gets me started and all that stuff." And Janae was crying. She's like, "Oh my God, I listen to Lemonade too. Oh my God, I didn't know." Like, and you know, the fact that I think one of the major things is like when we do ask these questions, we not only, you know, ask questions about the issues, but we also want to humanize these people.
Right.
It's not
right.
just like, oh my God, she's up in front of the camera with this suit on and she's
Yeah.
talking and she's speaking her views on these major issues. But we also want to humanize and personalize these people, like
Right.
everyday people, and they breathe the same air. They breathe the same air we do.
Yeah.
They drink the same alkaline water we do. You know what I'm saying?
You already know.
And it's just like, you know, that's the reason why. That's the reason why after the serious stuff gets discussed,
Yeah.
we like to go a little bit deeper.
Yeah. No, that's a great trait to have, great thing as far as with the interviewing and whatnot. And so, listen, I want to, you know, as we get close to wrapping up, you know, the grind, man, because I talk about this a lot with different people. It's so easy now, right, to see pictures of you on the sidelines of the Super Bowl, Atlanta United FC games, MLS Cups, NFL draft. I mean, sitting front row asking Kyler Murray right after he got drafted. So that's all great, right? It's great to see, you know, you breaking stories on politics. That's all the good stuff, man. But a lot of people, what gets missed, especially with social media and things, is the grind, the work, the isolation, being by yourself, working on stuff. Like you said, you know, even before, you know, you break a story that goes national with the AP, you still cranking out 4 stories a day, you know, consistently. I remember you giving me a call one time, us chatting right before you go to Nashville for an event for, I think, a game to cover. And then I'm like, wait a minute, what time are you leaving? You're like, I'm leaving like in a couple of hours. Like, you know, like talk about like that work and putting that in and that test of, do you really want something?
Some coaches will say, football coaches will always say, you know, trust the process. Nick Saban always says, trust the process.
True.
But also you can't cheat the process as well. You can't cheat the process.
I was just talking to Izzy about that today.
You can't cheat the process. You can't cheat the hustle. You can't, because at the end of the day, the only person that suffers is you.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And I know, like, I've had several homegirls of mine. They be like, they'll see me at like Hawks games. I'll be courtside hanging out with lawyers and doctors.
Right.
And they'll be like, "Oh my God, you go to the games all the time. You get in here for free. Can you give me?" I'm like, nah. I can't even.
Yeah,
I can't even cap and say, "Yeah, I got you." Like,
nah.
It don't work like that, because it's like there are people who, you know, I count it a privilege to represent an organization like the Atlanta Voice, standing upon 53 years of just absolute, you know, being unapologetically black in the media space.
There you go.
You know, the fact that I can put this on, wear this polo on my chest, I have this logo on my chest, I should say, and represent that organization, go out here every single day, is like, it's a privilege and it's an honor.
Yeah, you're not gonna mess around just to get somebody in free.
Like, I can't cap and do that. At the same time, I must say, to your point, I must say that with all of that in mind, you know, you can never be afraid to do the work.
Yeah.
Because for as much as we look at social media and as much as we
Right.
laud people for, we still live and work in a "what have you done for me lately" business.
Yeah.
You know,
and plus real interaction still matters.
You know, face-to-face interaction matters.
Yes.
the fact that, Super Bowl was 3 months ago.
Yeah, yeah.
Now we've moved on.
Yeah.
Now it's now we've moved on to rookie minicamp.
Exactly. So and also just to your point is that if your whole objective was only to get to the Super Bowl to cover it for you to take a selfie, then where would you be at now? You see what I'm saying? But your objective was to cover the Super Bowl and then the next event. And so
Because I can say, in 4 months, in 4 solid months, I covered the Super Bowl.
right.
I've covered NBA All-Star Game
Oh,
2
yeah.
weeks
Oh,
after the
yeah.
Super Bowl.
I forgot about that.
Then Atlanta United. Then the Georgia General Assembly,
Yeah.
the Gold
yeah.
Dome.
Okay.
Then we get to the whole airport debate.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You were. Yeah.
I
yeah.
wrote an article about how, if the Republicans gain control of Hartsfield-Jackson, it's going to destroy Maynard Jackson's legacy.
Okay. Okay.
And the fires that article started.
Right.
So
right.
much so the AJC had to devote a cover story to the fact that the airport issue revolves around race.
Okay.
Who started that? The black newspaper did.
Right.
And then after that, before I went to the NFL draft, I spent 2 hours with Donald Trump.
Oh, all right. Okay.
I know.
I mean, media's covering it.
Again,
Covering the event.
it's the president of the United States, regardless as to who the president is.
At the end, it's journalism is journalism. Man.
Journalism is journalism. Job is a job. The grind is a grind. The one thing I did not have was a White House. I've never covered a sitting president before.
Yeah.
In person. So it's like, I don't agree. Do I agree? I don't agree with Donald Trump.
It's about doing the work. But listen, I commend you for that because the point you're making as well is that you didn't cover the Super Bowl and then to sit around and clap about that and rest on your laurels. You got out there and got on to the grind and kept it going. But listen, before I go to my last question, I want to make sure that you tell the people how they can get in contact with you, your social media, any projects you got working on, anything you got going, let the people know right now.
No problem. So my social media, all platforms, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, even MySpace, if you still have it. It's Picturemane, Picturemane, Picturemane. That's also the Gmail account, Picturemane@gmail. You can get in touch with me that way. Follow the Atlanta Voice at the Atlanta Voice. It's Atlanta's only black-owned newspaper. It's been around since 1966.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's how you can get in touch with me.
You see. So make sure you do that. So, always in the show is, what is your keys or your steps towards building and maintaining great relationships?
Here, I have a couple of keys, and they vary depending on the kind of person who I want to build a relationship with.
Go right ahead.
The first thing I love to do is like, listen, let's go eat. We all eat. Let's go somewhere.
That's how we
That's how we met. You know what I'm saying? Let's go eat. Let's go get some food. If it's a Sunday afternoon, and you know they love football, go to the sports bar, sit at a bar at a table,
right.
and watch the 8 or 9 NFL games on that Sunday. Because let me tell you, you're gonna learn a lot about that person.
Right. This interacting with them,
Just breaking bread, all that stuff. So depending on the kind of person they are, go eat.
Okay.
Be it y'all are getting messy and eating crab legs or sushi. It don't matter. Like, get to know that person. Ask them, like, where they want to go eat. That tells you a lot about who they are.
I got you.
That's the first thing. The second thing I do, I always communicate. Send the good, they always say, well, if you don't send the good morning text, you don't care. That's true. Send them the good morning text. Call at least if you're trying to do business with somebody.
Yeah.
Call in the between. I like to do scheduled phone calls between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m.
Gotcha.
Sweet spot of the day. Because if you work in nightlife, you're not getting up till 11 a.m. anyway. And by the time they wake up and they realize, oh, guess what? I got this message and this message and this message.
Yeah.
Guess what? You already in there.
Right.
So I like to schedule my calls between 10 and 2, you know, because, again, me being from Nashville, a lot of my business had to be done because I'm doing business in Atlanta.
Central
you an
time
hour
zone.
East Central Time Zone.
Central
Exactly.
time zone, yeah.
So those calls would be like from 9 to 1. So I switched that up from 9 to 1 to 10 to 2. So those are the two things. Those are the two things I always do. Send texts, call people, and take them out to eat.
Yeah. Listen, all of those things are great things, and it's funny because he's right. All those things are things you've done. Because I'll tell you this about this brother, man. It was so random, and talk about just the humbling spirit he has. I remember, I think he was leading up to College Football Hall of Fame and whatnot. And, if you know me, I'm a big Oklahoma guy. That's where I grew up at. And he's texting me like, hey, I'm going to be speaking to, Dede Westbrook or Baker Mayfield. You have any question you want to ask? And I'm like, wait a minute. This brother's taking the time out of his time to ask me. I'm like, wow. I'm like, okay. I didn't even, what I'm saying? So that's something that you can't buy. That's truly who that person is. Who he is someone who has that caring spirit. So a couple things I'll take away from this is that, for one, like you said, you can't cheat the hustle. You got to put the work in. And even when you do win big, like you get to cover a Super Bowl or NFL draft, you clap for yourself, but then you go home tonight, sleep, and you get back to work. Like, there's no sitting around resting on that. So keep putting that work in. And he's right, too, is that, social media is great. And I get a lot of traction off social media, but a lot of these people that I've met in these relationships, it's in person. I've taken it offline. Like you said, you and I, we don't talk as much, but our first encounters were all in person, sitting down, eating, having camaraderie, Ashley, Curtis, and just having fellowship and this building and talking about ideas. And once you start to do that, I really feel like that's the next step that's going to take your business or your podcast, your show, your music, wherever you're going to go. Take it offline, but don't just take it offline to be offline. Like you said, have some kind of intention about it. Go eat, go talk about some things, talk about ideas, because if you're sitting around talking about gossip, or if you're sitting around, as much as we love sports, we don't even sit around talk about sports. You sit around talking about other people's accolades all day, and you're not talking about ideas with other people.
We talking about like how to, entrepreneurship, creating things and creating wealth and avenues and how do you engage these people? How do you get to these people to execute your plan?
Execute your plan, but also, too, is that how do you build something, like you said, even going back to your Nashville story about, the stopping of complaining about the nightlife scene and the music scene, and how can we start where we're at, put our resources together, and make something happen. That's the same thing that you, Ashley, Curtis, and I said the same thing. We're like, okay, you know what? A lot of things are going to be happening. How can we get together? How can we congregate? And it starts here. So listen, I want to thank you so much, brother, for coming by the show. It's been way too long to catch up with you. I'm very proud of you, everything that you're doing. And I'm proud of the fact that, like I said, you're not waiting around. You're not just sitting around after this accolade. You're keeping it going. So all the amazing work you're doing on your own with the Atlanta Voice, it's appreciated. So listen, check me out. Follow your boy. Follow a player. At Artbyodell, all one word, Artbyodell. Make sure you support Live Hip Hop Daily. Live Hip Hop Daily. Listen, the platform, the brand is strong. We're growing. We out here trying to do our things. So Live Hip Hop Daily. Support that on all social media. All that. Shout out to Izzy for the win. Check that brother out. Amazing things he does. So it's your man Odell. Odell's Roundtable. We'll be back next week. We got some more. I got a lot of great guests lined up. So I appreciate you rocking with me. And stay tuned. Odell, Itoro signing out for Odell's Roundtable.